Alright guys, just a little brief discussion right now. I had a little discussion at work. If you're not a bedside nurse, are you still considered a nurse? I always say yes. Any job that you obtain that has the title nurse in it, you're still a nurse. You went to school to be a nurse and you are now doing that job. There are various jobs that require you to use none of your nursing skills at all, but require you to be a nurse to obtain such as something, and you still use skills for this, but this is just sort of an example I'm giving. United Healthcare, the insurance company, hires nurses to stay on the phone and basically kind of triage you into what you need to do. Go see your doctor, go to the hospital, things like that. These nurses do use their skills. They don't use their hands-on skills as they're over the phone, typically at the house. They are the original work-from-home folks. Not really the originals, but they've been doing it since before COVID, and they don't have their hands-on skills. They're not using their hands-on skills. These people are still nurses. They went to school to be a nurse, and for whatever reason, they decided, you know what, I feel like I'm going to stay at the house, and I'm going to talk on the phone all day. And that is what they do as a nurse. They are still nurses. Once you tell people that you're a nurse, the next question out of their mouth is typically, or at least it has been for me, well, which hospital do you work at? Or do you work at Memorial, or, whatever they'll say. And it's like you kind of throw people for a loop when you say, oh, I work at, such and such. Not a hospital. Now, I've worked for two hospitals, worked for two very large hospitals, and I enjoyed my time at the hospitals, but it's not for me, for whatever reason. At the very beginning, they got rid of the LPNs. I was caught up in that. Then they brought them all back, and then I don't know if they're going to get rid of them all now again, or, whatever they're going to do. But the hospital life just wasn't quite for me. I didn't, just wasn't for me. And then people forget that nurses work at nursing homes. I guess that they think that they're just full of CNAs and med techs, but yes, nurses are at nursing homes, and I'm not going to say nursing home nurses are not bedside nurses. I will say I probably spent more time at the bedside at the nursing home than I did at either hospital. I would say that I spent a lot more time at the bedside at the nursing home. I definitely spent more time with patients at the nursing home. So yes, nurses work at nursing homes, and I worked harder at a nursing home than I did, probably anywhere else, excluding dialysis. Dialysis was a lot of moving around. And there's another point. There are various clinics and offices that nurses work at. Nurses work at doctors' offices. I know that a lot of them are CMAs, and I will argue that a CMA is a nurse. That's up for debate as well. A lot of people say no, it's not up for debate because they're not the nurse in the title. It's a discussion for later. Anyways, nurses work at doctors' offices. Nurses work at various clinics. There are various wound care clinics or dialysis clinics, or whatever else there may be a clinic for that nurses do work at. You could be like myself and be in substance abuse. That's what I'm in at the moment and have been for quite a while. Nurses work there. There are so many jobs that nurses do that you don't have to be a bedside nurse to be a nurse. There are home health care nurses. And for debate, some of them are not anywhere near a bedside. Some of them will come in there and simply ask a bunch of questions and leave and not really provide any care. Any hands-on care. They'll do plenty of paperwork and help you out a bunch, but they're not really doing any hands-on care. But they are still nurses. So if you become a nurse, if you're going into school, becoming a new grad or whatever it is, and you see something at the hospital or wherever your clinical site is, and you're like, you know what, I really don't care for that procedure, or whatever that is. I think that maybe hands-on is not for me as a nurse. There are plenty of jobs out there that require nurses to not have their hands on any patients, but you're still a nurse doing them, and you're still, you get all the benefits of being a nurse, and you get to tell people, hey, yeah, I'm a nurse. So that is definitely something that if you are a new grad or if you're going into nursing and you're like, you know what, I don't want my hands on the patient. I don't necessarily want to be at the bedside, but I want to continue to be a nurse. There is a job out there for you to continue as a nurse to where you're not, you may not even see a patient. You may talk to them on the phone. You may just be doing research and looking at them through notes, really. I don't necessarily know exactly what all research entails. You may just be looking at notes. You may be going and following up questions with the patients, but still not doing any hands-on. I'm not exactly sure with research. My aunt was a research nurse. Unfortunately, she passed away, so I cannot get the information out of her, to figure out exactly what they did. I would love to have a conversation with a research nurse because I would love to get into research, as her job sounded so much fun. But if you just don't want hands-on, you could even be an educator. There are nurses that educate CNAs. There are nurses that educate nurses in nursing school. And you're teaching, but not necessarily getting your hands on the patients, not at the bedside, but you're still a nurse. So, any job that requires you to be a nurse, you are a nurse. Just because you're not at the bedside does not mean that you are any less of a nurse. And don't let anyone tell you differently. ED nurses, of course they get all the glory because they're in the ED. But, I just don't think that they're any better of a nurse than any other nurse. Not even the phone call nurses that, work for places like United Healthcare. We all earned our titles. We all got there somehow. And so you are a nurse, even if you're not at the bedside. But, yes, I consider every nurse to be a nurse, even if you're not at the bedside. That is just my opinion. If you differentiate, let me know. I'd like to know, people's opinions on the matter. I think it'd be a good a discussion, as far as to, why or why not you became a nurse. And my mother one time asked me the question. I was applying for a job, and I can't remember the exact job that I was applying for, but I would not be anywhere near patients. And my mother asked me, she said, well, don't you want to do what you went to school for? Like you're not really going to use that education that you just obtained. You just spent so long obtaining. You're not going to use that education doing that job. You're not going to use your skills doing that job. And I was thinking, Mom, I really just want this job. They're telling me they're going to pay me well, and I'm going to be able to feed all my kids, and yeah, maybe I'm not going to be using my skills I learned, but I'll still be a nurse. So it is what it is. Even my mother asked me one time if I was going to do like that, but became a nurse. I'm not necessarily at the bedside. I do see plenty of patients every day and do things as a nurse would do. So hope it helps. If you got anything for discussion, let me know. I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on the matter. Check out this video over here, and don't forget to subscribe. Hope it helps. Thank you much.